Welcome to the first episode of Laugh Now, Cry Later. You're here with Emissary J and
Brother Kemp.
and we're here to talk to you about things relating to Yahuah and Yahusha, who we serve and worship. We really want to go through our testimonies and just speak to you, about how we've got here to where we are today, and hopefully that will resonate with a lot of people and get people to know us based on our journey. It was about 4 years ago. Yahuah spoke to us pertaining doing a podcast. And at that time, we were actually all living in London. And now we have moved up to Chesterfield. That's where we're now based, by the will of Yahuah. And 4 years later, the time is now right for us to bring forth this podcast. We'll be going through our testimonies, as I said. Brother Kemp will touch on it first. And hopefully this will be for many of you out there a new and interesting path, and just should resonate with you in all things pertaining to Yahusha and the word. Brother Kemp.
The Yahuah, yes. It was back in 2019 when the pandemic had hit. And I was let off of work. I had not completely, but I had a lot less hours. And with that came being able to be online a lot more. And I remember finding this topic, flat Earth, and I started to really resonate with it. It started to be a very, very interesting thing to me. There were, as you know, you come up against a lot of scorners of flat Earth and people,
stepping stone,
yeah,
definitely a stepping stone.
People they come with their science and whatnot. And yeah, it started to be a thing that I really, really started to believe in. And as you do, you try to find people who are like yourself. So I tried to join a lot more groups, and one of the groups that I joined was called Yahuah's Flat Earth. And I remember looking through all of the posts, and it wasn't just flat Earth posts; it was also Yahuah and Yahusha posts. They were posting a variety of stuff, and
was that like scriptures and stuff?
They were posting scriptures to affirm the flat Earth.
Okay.
And they were also posting just uplifting, encouraging scriptures, for the brethren. And so I had at that point, I now had the name Yahuah and Yahusha in my life, but not to the point where I fully, accepted it and said, okay, this is the name of my father, I'm going to worship this name, so on and so forth. But I had knew the name at that point, so it was, as I say, the first step in my life, I believe. And later on down the line, I started to encounter a lot more people on Facebook, and one of the predominant one of the predominant groups I would encounter on Facebook were the Hebrew Israelites. And that was a very big part in my walk in the beginning, because it was one of the things that really made me feel down, to say the least, because it was just a group of people who were telling me that I couldn't make it. I couldn't be saved.
Which is not in line with not what the scriptures.
Which is not in line with what the scripture says. But because I was new to the walk, and I hadn't really known the scriptures like that, as the scripture says, to know the truth, and resist the devil and he will flee, and all these things. But because I didn't know the word or really know the truth in its fullness at the time, I couldn't resist or fight against those doctrines of the devil. So anyway, moving on forward, I remember at this time in my life, I had a very bad habit. I had a habit of smoking, and
who had bad habits?
And I remember praying to Yahuah one time when I was in the garden. I had in my ignorance, I had the cigarette in my hand, and I was praying to Yahuah, and I was asking him to, at the time, wasn't praying to Yahuah. I just said, Father, please remove this from my life. Help me to stop smoking, because it was one of them things that I couldn't give up myself, but I truly decided to stop, because I knew it wasn't good for me. Not just for health, but spiritually, it's not good for you. And I remember having a voice in my head, and it said, if you love me, throw it away. So without hesitation, threw it away, went upstairs, grabbed the box, broke them all, flushed them down the toilet, and I stopped that day. Yeah, praise be to Yahuah. It was, I felt like I had been lifted away from something that was holding me down, a stronghold that was very hard to escape from. Yahuah had opened that door and I was able to escape. So yeah, praise be to Yahuah. And then around this time, I was being given more hours at work. And I remember it like it was yesterday. I was going into the fridge to get some more stock for the shop, and I received a text. And I just looked at the phone straight away, and it was Sister Rachel.
Okay.
And she said, Shalom, da da da. Have you been immersed yet? In the name of Yahusha. And I said to her, no, I haven't, but I'll do it myself. and and I said that because at that time I hadn't realized that the scriptures don't allow for you to, all the examples of scripture, they don't allow you to be immersed by yourself. So she started to show me scriptures, and she started to, say, okay, look at this example, look at this example. There's nowhere in scripture, you won't find a single example where someone immersed themselves, not even Yahusha immersed himself. So I started to look at those things and really take them on board. And I said, you know what, that makes sense. That does make sense. So she gave me Emissary Jay's number, and we spoke. And I think it was a few days later, we met. I got immersed. And yeah, ever since then, it's been a roller coaster of a journey. Who has been baracking us, and he's been, really, really, he's been guiding us, been a lamp unto our feet, and in this time of darkness that we just plodding on forward. And it's just been a wild journey, and yeah, praise to you, we're still here to this day. Yeah,
well, no, that's a deep testimony, and I think always when you hear other people's testimonies, it resonates with you because you've been called by the same Creator, Yahuah, and He's the one that chooses us, that opens our hearts to be able to receive Him, and we just give Him all the thanks. Like obviously your testimony, my testimony, it's a similar thing. It's always so similar, but being in 2013, it was when I came into Yahusha, so it was a while ago. But I always say it's not about the length of time; it's always about the quality of service. Because you could be in something forever, but if you're not applying it to your life, it doesn't matter. But I was always from the beginning really striving to understand. And before I came into the name of Yahusha, I was just of the world like everybody else, going out, partying, just living the same life as every bloke in the estate, on the housing, whatever. And I would never, let me say as well, I would never condemn anybody living that way because that's what I came from. And it's very easy now that you have been open to something to see people condemning other people. And I would never do that. You should have more of a better understanding of where they are because you've been there and you should be able to relate. So when I was living that lifestyle basically, and I believe there was a creator, but I always used to think, but there's people suffering, there's this person dying. Why would the creator who loves us, well, why would he be allowing this to happen? Didn't understand. I had zero understanding. So anyway, I lived my life kind of like that. And then I got to a point in my life where I just couldn't party. I couldn't smoking, drinking, all these types of things. I had a large group of friends that kind of lived the same way. And in myself, I was just so unhappy. But you're around the boys and this, that, and the other, and you're putting on this image of, it's this, it's that. And I had a really good friendship group, let me say, that we'd grown up together and we were very close. But I just wasn't happy in myself. It's the only way to describe it. It's like I could see myself how I was living, and something was just saying to me, like, this isn't right. This isn't the way to live. There's going to be consequences. That's all I knew. There's going to be consequences if I don't turn my life around. But I didn't know what. So I went out one one night, and I came back home. It must have been about 4 or 5 in the morning, and I hadn't cried for about 10 years. Like, I couldn't. Like, my heart was so hard. I'm just so used to doing this, that, and the other that crying it just wasn't part of who I was. If that makes sense. And I just couldn't stop crying. I was crying, and I was like, "What is this?" And I was just like, I don't know. I felt like something in me had broken, and I was vulnerable. And at that moment, I just cried out. I didn't know Yahuah's name at the time. I just said, "God, if you're real, please just show me you're real, and I'll follow you, because I can't live like this anymore." And even now, when I think about it, it was like a different person. It's like who I am now came out then, and amongst this person who was totally of the world. And I remember trying to go back to sleep, or whatever, and it felt good actually to cry. It's like I hadn't cried for so long. It actually felt good to let it all out. It's like so much pent up frustration.
Yeah.
So anyway, I borrowed a suit from one of my friends who lived in Felton, and I had to go back and drop it to him. So I went to the station, dropped it off, met him. Yeah, thanks, bro. I really appreciate it. It must be about 3 days later, and I'm sitting at the platform, and I see this like Chinese-looking lady walking up the platform, but it's hard to explain. I'm looking at her, but she looks like she shouldn't be there.
Okay.
It's, and I'm looking at her and I'm thinking, where have you come from? Like, it's just, she's like stuck out like a sore thumb. And then she's looking at me. So I'm thinking, oh, who's she? But there's no one behind me. So I'm looking and I'm thinking, I don't know you. Like, who are you? So she keeps walking, and she walks right up to me. And then she's got this leaflet and she goes, I think you need this in your life. And I look at the leaflet I can't even tell you all the stuff it had on it. But it was like, I knew it was, well, now I can say it was Yahuah. And I was in shock. I couldn't speak. And I was looking at like, no way. That's all I heard in my, no way. And then I went to speak, but I couldn't. And she's like, what's your name? And I went, and she went looking down the list. I said, Jay, sorry. And she looked down the list like 1, 2, 3. It's like she got to my name and she crossed my name off the list. So it was like I knew I wasn't the first person she'd gone to visit that day.
Right.
So I was just about to say to her, oh, you know what I prepped? And she was like here at this time. She was gone. And I looked, like looking for her, and it's like the train came and she was just on the train. She didn't step on the train. She didn't go on the train. The train just pulled up and she was on the train. The doors were open and I was looking, and the doors closed and she just went, and she went.
Wow.
And from that point, I knew that there was a creator.
Yes.
I can't explain it any other way than I just knew. It's what I needed to know, that there was a creator. And then from that, I went and I was reading the scriptures, and I couldn't say the name JC. I couldn't pray to him. I was like, oh, what's wrong? And then I remember reading in the scripture, he who denies the Father, denies the Son, denies the Father. I'm like, I can't pray. And I'm like, oh man, I don't know what to do. So I heard the name, I think I was pronouncing it like Yahuah. I didn't know how to pronounce it properly in the beginning because I was like by myself. And I started looking to try and find out what his name was. And I came to the name Emmanuel. So I'm sitting there now and I'm thinking, yeah, I know his name. Like, I've got this. Look where I am. I'm good. Like, this is self. Obviously, it's early days. So I call my mum up. I say, yeah, Mum. Do you know what the true name of the Saviour is? She goes, yeah, it's Yahushua. And I'm like, who? Yeah, it's Yahushua. I've been going down to this assembly, blah, blah. She started speaking. Her friend, her best friend was in the background, who I grew up with, knew very well, called Sister Symphony, obviously, who's with us. And she was like, yeah, go to this assembly. And she gave me an address to Emissary Martin's house. And I went down there, and that was the beginning of my journey in Yahushua. Wow. But it was was an amazing journey. And when I look back on it, it was, it was tough, it was rough. But when I came into the name, when I just heard the name Yahusha, I didn't for a second doubt it. I knew it just resonated. It was like, this is it.
Yeah.
This is the name, And that was the beginning of my journey. 12 years ago? 12? Yeah, 12 years ago was the beginning of my journey. And I've never looked back since.
Yeah, that is
never looked back.
It's insane to say the least, isn't it? Yeah. And it's just, yeah, wow, speechless. Wow. But yeah, that thing that you was speaking about with the woman and how she just appeared on the train, that must have been so surreal for you. And just, yeah.
I'm one of those, I was, should I say, one of those people who was like, if I don't see it, I'm like, no, you sure you weren't drunk, or you sure you weren't smoking something, or whatever it may be. Like, sure you weren't half asleep. In experiencing what I experienced, it was like you're out of time, you're out of this world. It's like you're hit into a different space, a reality where nothing's making sense.
Yeah.
And then you're back in the room. It's like that. Yeah. And you're like, oh, wait, did that just happen? But it did just happen because I had the leaflet in my hand. I believe to this day that it was a Malik.
Okay.
Yeah, a messenger of
God.
God. I believe that, absolutely. And I believe many people have experienced the same things. The scripture says, beware lest you entertain a Malik unawares, a messenger unawares. And just the way it happened, she came directly to me, No esteem of my self-esteem be to Yahuah, because, I'm just a man. But it was, Yahuah knows exactly what you need to believe, because he knows who are his. And that, it pushed me straight into, I knew. I was like, he answered, or he heard my prayer, should I say, and he led me to his true name. And as soon as when I came to that, I just knew, this is it. Yeah. This is what I'm supposed to be doing.
And this is like a trend that I see with all the testimonies of people coming to Yahushua. It's like it's like how can I say? It's like a lead up to something, and it's like, boom, there's something that affirms to you 101% that there is a creator who is, as you say, in your corner. And it's something that I hear in every testimony I've heard. So yeah, you're right in saying Yahuah knows how to, Yahuah knows what to show you, or what to allow you to experience for you to truly believe. Because it's how he works.
It's an amazing thing. And for me, one of the most important things in this journey, for anybody that's just coming into Yahushua or anything like that, you've got to have your own relationship with Yahushua. You've got to. It's so important for you to have your own personal relationship, because without your own personal relationship, if nobody else is around, how are you going to keep moving forward? Who are you going to trust? So you've got to, and I always encourage people, listen, you've got to have your own relationship, because if you desire a relationship with Yahuah, he will pull you close to him. Yes. He will speak to you. He will give you dreams. He will lift you up in all things pertaining to him, as long as you submit to him, and also, family and friends look at you and they see that you've changed, and we're not people who forget where we've come from and all these types of things. We're on a journey. We desire everyone to come with us, in love, because once you connect to Yahushua, you can't disconnect. If you truly love him, you just can't disconnect from him, and that's what I found. So there's some people who can look at it and think, oh, what's so great about Yahuwah and Yahushua? And I always say to them, do you know what? Try it for yourself.
You find out for yourself. Yeah.
Find out for yourself. Yeah. Pray with your heart open. We're not in a cult. We're not, how can I put it? Everything that's asked of us is, when you read the scripture, it's love. Love your neighbor as yourself. Love Yahuwah with all your heart. Why? Because without him, you couldn't be here. we couldn't survive. There are unclean spirits running around trying to destroy everyone. And by loving him, he keeps you from those spirits.
Keeps that hedge around.
Right. And he stops them from destroying you. And it's a warfare that's happening. And if people look into that and see, if you're in battle, if you're at war, and you've got a general who is all conquering, you're going to stay in the arm of your general. Because that's what it is. If you go too far, it's not safe out there. And it's the same thing in Yahuah. What we go through is, and you see lots of things happening in the world, and it always reaffirms us that, prophecies in scripture. I mean, obviously, stuff we'll go through at another time because there's so much to go through. But it's so important for people to reach out to Yahuah for themselves, because it's not just for me. He's not just for you. He's not just for Levi, our engineer back there, or anyone else, whoever they are. Yahuah is for all who seek him.
Yes.
And that's the message. He is for everyone. Nobody is too special. Nobody is too unclean or sinful for him not to call you and clean you up and use you for the purpose you've been created. And hopefully moving forward as we speak to the people, they will resonate with the word, with Yahuah himself, because that's all we're going to focus people towards. Is Yahuah, his word, his direction. And we put all things in his hands.
Yahuah.
We will be, as we move forward, we'll be going through the scriptures. We will be talking about a lot of things, and just hopefully bringing a lot of clarity based on what we believe in relation to the scriptures. We'll be talking, going through things, and it's really for you to come on this journey with us, to see how we've got here. We'll be meeting other people in the assembly as well, giving their testimonies at some point. Other brothers and sisters, should I say, will be giving their testimony as we move forward.
And yeah, so in the description below, we will be leaving a link to our Facebook, our YouTube, and our Discord, where you can meet with people who are, like-minded, who believe in Yahushua and Yahuah too, and just find a lot more information that we may not talk about directly on the video, as such as today's video. Yeah, we'll leave it there.